Good morning. Today we are starting with speaking responsibly. So, like always, we have a folder. You can't see the first 9 weeks folder anymore. I figured it's just easier if we start over. So, speaking responsibly. And then you have a read first. You can do your bell ringer first if you want. That doesn't really matter. Do your bell ringer, and then read first is all of the information that we need for today, our objectives and our standard, and you can do the items in the folder as they are listed. So today's lesson, watch the movie clip from the movie A Few Good Men. Some information you need to know about the scene. So the scene is a lawyer, which is played by Tom Cruise, suspects that there's been a cover-up in the death of a Marine. He suspects that Nicholson's character, which is the soldier on the stand, gave an order that resulted in the death of that Marine. In this climactic scene, Cruise, in his frustration, demands the truth, in which Nicholson replies, "You can't handle the truth." So after watching that, so you can go watch that real quick, come back. What power do words have for Cruise in this movie? So words will provide information that can help determine whether or not the cover-up has taken place. So he's listening to what words are being spoken so that he can determine that. How did Nicholson and his staff use words in the movie? So they use them to lie and cover up what really happened. So what was the truth that Nicholson thought a civilian couldn't handle? So Nicholson, which is a soldier on the stand, in his mind, the military had to toughen up its soldiers to face the horrors of war by any means necessary, so doing whatever it takes. He views the methods as needed and says that death, even though it was tragic, was beneficial. And you can hear him say that in the video about how it was necessary. So, a responsible speaker, which is what we're talking about today. What do you think it means to be a responsible speaker? And in the bell ringer today, you are reviewing what we talked about listening and what it means to be a critical listener. So today we are responsible speakers. So one meaning could be to be honest based on one's own experience, to be honest about your experiences. So how did Nicholson use words in the courtroom scene in this particular speech? He used them to rationalize or justify his unjustifiable behavior. So he did a bad thing, a thing that he shouldn't have done, and he tried to use his words to justify that and make it sound like it was okay to do. So is this an example of speaking responsibly? No. Covering up the truth is a manipulation of words in order to deceive someone, and it is not speaking responsible. Responsible speakers tell the truth. Does Nicholson take responsibility for use of his words? Yes. He believes he's doing a service to his country by toughening up the military. And he thought things through, and he thinks that he's doing what's right. Which is why he tried to justify what he was doing, because he thinks that it's right. So what are the consequences of his words? Now he's been exposed. The truth has come to light, and the lie or cover-up has been exposed. What will be the consequences of his actions? So he'll probably get dishonorably charged from the military, discharged, and he'll have to face a court-martial and probably go to jail. Words are powerful, so be careful and think about the consequences of your words, since you must take responsibility for them. Remember, if the words come out of your mouth, they are yours. So be careful what you say. Be responsible. You have to take responsibility no matter what you say, so be careful of what you say. Okay, so it says go do the tell me about yourself activity and come back, so that's what we're going to do. If you open up the tell me about yourself activity, the instructions are in the document. So you need to highlight your answers when you type them. Our words create an impression, so it's important to use words in ways that show respect for ourselves and for the people around us. Does that sound familiar to a classroom rule we have? Yes, it does. In a job interview, for example, a prospective employer can learn a lot about you based on what you say and how you say it. Remember, we talked about how body language is important, how you say things is important. Read the following interviews for candidate 1 and candidate 2. Imagine the body language that would come with these words. Then list the strengths and weaknesses of each candidate. Excuse me. Tell me which candidate you would hire for the job. So candidate 1, interviewer, tell me about yourself. Candidate, lounging across the chair, kind of lax. Well, I'm probably the top athlete at my school. I'm fast at anything, and I can bench press 250 pounds. Interviewer, so loading and unloading boxes. And the candidate interrupts the interviewer, would be a piece of cake, and I got I just got a new 10-speed bike that I could use to make deliveries fast. I really don't think my twin brother would mind, even though the bike belongs to both of us. Interviewer, have you ever done this kind of work before? No, it's no big deal. I can handle it. So, list the candidate number one's strengths and their weaknesses and highlight it after you type it. Okay. Candidate number two, interviewer, tell me about yourself. Candidate, well, I just moved here about a month ago. I'm a pretty good student. My classes don't seem so tough, so I think I can handle an after school job. Interviewer, so the hours won't interfere with your schedule or homework? No, they work out fine for this semester. You know the job involves lifting some heavy boxes. I know. I'm stronger than I look. When we moved here, I had to lift some really heavy boxes. I did okay with them. Interview, have you ever done anything else that's similar to this kind of work? No. Sorry, I'm seeing some of my typos. No, but I'm really organized and I've been to the store a lot, so I know where things are. I know the neighborhood, so I won't get lost making deliveries. I think I can do the job. So what is candidate number two, strengths and weaknesses, and then which candidate would you hire and why? Okay, so now we're going to go back to our folder. So every word counts. Everything that you say counts. The way you say things count. We learned a lot about candidate number one and candidate number two in that last activity. Candidate number one seemed kind of like, I don't care, a job's fine. He's an athlete or she's an athlete, so that's probably going to interfere with the work schedule, right? We learned that number two doesn't have anything that interferes with the schedule. Candidate number one has a bike that they share, so they may not be able to use it all the time, which could cause a problem for their employer. Candidate number one seemed to not really care about like grades or anything like that. All they talked about was sports. Candidate number two seemed more not arrogant but confident. Number two showed or told the employer about some instances where they have lifted heavy boxes and recently, so they know they can do it. They know the neighborhood, so they can they won't get lost on deliveries. They've been in the store multiple times. They talked about their grades, which means they care about their grades. They said they were organized. So a lot more strengths we see in candidate number two. Every word counts. You must choose your words carefully. In an interview, not only to make a good impression, but to persuade someone to hire you. Think of all your teachers. Every teacher that you have had to sit through an interview with Mr. Harris or whichever principal hired them, and they had to convince them to hire them. I had to persuade Mr. Harris to hire me and that I was the best candidate for the job. You want to convince a prospective employee that you're the right person for the job, like I just said. Our purpose of effective speaking is to persuade or to sway someone's thoughts or feelings, but with the truth. Remember, we talked about how Nicholson's character tried to persuade people with a cover-up that wasn't the truth, and we want to use the truth. That's what a responsible speaker does. Clarity is another reason for using words responsibly. When you communicate simply and clearly, you're more likely to get your point across. Diplomacy, the art of dealing with people in a sensitive and effective way, is yet another reason to choose words carefully and speak responsibly. Being honest and tactful rather than blank can give people a gentle push in the right direction. So, in conclusion, words are powerful, so use them wisely. You must take responsibility for your words because they belong to you. Using words responsibly is part of being an effective communicator, and speak responsibly for persuasion, clarity, and diplomacy. And then we're going to take our Speaking responsibly assessment, it's 2 questions. The first question is list 4 things you can do to be a responsible speaker, and we just went over that in our read first. And then describe someone you know that is a responsible speaker and someone who's not a responsible speaker. You don't have to list names. Which one do you trust more and why? So just an example of people in your life, or maybe just people in general. It doesn't have to be a specific person. Do you see your teachers as responsible speakers? Do you see your parents as responsible speakers? Do you see your brother or sister as someone that's not a responsible speaker, or maybe someone that you've had problems with, and why do you think they're not a responsible speaker? Maybe they tell lies, maybe they don't always tell the truth, they tell you what you want to hear, or something like that. And that, I believe, is all in our folder. So if you have any questions, email me. I hope you're happy and healthy. Your grades are posted. Whatever you had in Schoology is what you have on your report card. I think you get those tomorrow. If you're Thursday people, Friday, you get them today. I hope you're happy and healthy. I hope to see you soon. Bye.